Okay, looks like we are live again. So, I am playing some Blood Bowl 2 here. And since I am feeling rather sick, my voice is usually a little bit less dour than this, we're just going to be watching a couple of the replays of the games I've had in the recent past. So let me go ahead and bring this up for you. Did just do a watch of my first Blood Bowl 2 game of my Nurgle versus High Elves. Might do that again later since it didn't really save, but anyway, that game ended within about 4 turns anyway, just because they rage quit randomly. Not a very good representation, but then again, that's been a lot of my games, since I'm just starting out in Blood Bowl 2, but when it came to Blood Bowl 1, I played an assload of it, so I think it's putting me up against lower level coaches at this point, which is a little unfair, but what are you going to do? Anywho, let's bring up one of my other games. Ah yes, here is my Dark Elves versus Dwarves. A game I was not really looking forward to when I first saw it queue up, but let's go ahead and take a look at it.
What? Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it, Bob.
Good thing we've got a replay then.
Now just since this is a test video, I'm not going too much into the specifics on Blood Bowl, but basically if you've never seen it before, it is fantasy football in its most literal sense. So we get, like I said here, we get Dark Elves facing up against Dwarves. Usually this matchup is pretty aggravating, just because Dwarves are the most boring team in the game to play against. They're really slow, they're impossible to hurt pretty much, and they just have the same thing every time they have the ball, which is to slowly march down the field until you kill yourself out of boredom. I, however, am playing the Dark Elves, who are basically the opposite of that. They are the elves with the, I guess, the bashiest playstyle. Still, though, they're primarily looking to do a running ball game for the most part, although I tend to be silly and try to play them as passers, even though the other elves are all better at that than them. Anyway, I don't remember a lot of the details on here, but let's see what happens. If I recall correctly, okay, yep, here we go.
The best throwers by a long shot, but an unsubtle use of brute force, the love of illegal weapons make them a team to be feared.
So it looks like he elected to kick for some reason. Oh wait, no, that's right. He just used a. No, he was electing to receive, so that's what it was. Because that is my standard defensive setup right there. Oh yes, and as always, change your cameras. For C and Control lets you set up the grid. I like to have the grid just for reference points. And he gets a reroll. No big thing, whatever. Anyway, a good deep kick.
The Dwarves have the ball.
Which means he's going to have a hard time setting up a cage early. That is the typical way that Dwarves try to play the game, is by just caging up the ball and meandering down the field for the whole half. Starting out, elf teams usually have a lot of trouble breaking cages of big old bashy teams, just because they don't have the skills for it. So, it is in my best interest to try to stop a cage before it forms. That's not a good start, though. I already got a lineman out, but he's just KO'd. He'll probably be back, and whatever. I don't need that many players for this. Dark Elves do at least have 8 armor value, which is the average, so they don't get hurt that much. It's not like they're Wood Elves, who basically all have 7 armor value. However, his Dwarves pretty much all have 9, which means they don't get hurt ever. Except for their Troll Slayers, who have 8, and are thus the most fragile players on a Dwarf team. They're the only Dwarf players I don't hate with a passion. They get Frenzy and all sorts of other cool stuff. Yeah, I don't mind them. They are interesting players. So, at this point, he's punched a bunch of my guys, but he hasn't really done much for setting up his cage. So at this point, I am just looking to put all of my elves in between most of his players and the ball. Basically just setting up a screen so that he can't actually get the ball to a safe position.
He'll get an assist now.
Just shoving dwarves. And if possible, I'm trying not to stand next to dwarves, since elves, even though I'm more sturdy than other races with the 8 armor, I still don't want to get them punched. And it's the standard elf tactic of just dodging everyone away from the enemy team every single turn, if possible. Pretty much every dwarf has tackle, which negates dodge, but luckily I don't actually have any dodge yet in my team, so I'm just using my straight armor value, my straight agility 4 to dodge away normally. And somehow I didn't roll any 1s in there, and that last dodge actually worked, which I was surprised about. Since that last elf was dodging into multiple tackle zones, which puts a negative modifier on the roll. Basically, if you don't have 4 agility, you generally shouldn't try that sort of thing. You can see the dice log in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen down there.
Safety in numbers.
And at this point he's done what he needs to do, which is just mark the hell out of my elves. This really is only... Oh, well! There's one of those 1s I was waiting for.
Stupid.
And Snake Eyes!
Bad for your head, bad for your pride.
That was the first action of my turn, so currently all of my elves are now fully marked. I didn't accomplish anything that turn. Their ball carrier is free. This is really bad.
We're gonna be here for quite some time.
Basically, he is free to cage up as much as he wants, and once that happens, I am pretty boned for the rest of this half, because he's, like I said, just going to march up and score freely.
Going and going and going.
Thus far, he hasn't had to use any of his rerolls, but considering he's just doing two-die blocks all the time, it's not too surprising. Ah, there we go. There's the double skulls I was hoping for.
At the same time.
I still succeeded, but hey, at least he used a reroll. I'll take it at this point. After that last round, anything is an improvement. And elf armor is holding up reasonably well. Still only have the 1 KO over there. And there we go. Another double skulls for him. Unfortunately, unlike me, his double skulls came at the end of his turn as opposed to the beginning of my turn. And he still hasn't properly caged. So this is how I know this player was relatively new, because he just focused on punching my elves, not on getting the ball to a safe spot. Which means this ball is essentially mine now, despite what might have happened last turn. Unless that keeps happening. Okay, that time the reroll actually worked, and I didn't have to tear the eyes out of any other snakes today.
They're in with a chance of turning this match on its head.
Ball's loose and I'm elves, which means that I score. Not yet though, because going for it, basically anytime you go past your character's stated movement value up to 2 squares, you have to roll a die, and if you roll a 1, you fall on your ass. They are the most dangerous rolls in the entire game, just ask any Blood Bowl player. It's a 1 in 6 chance, but it will fail almost every single time, and death is the most likely result. So basically at this point, his only recourse is to punch the crap out of my elves, because he's not getting that guy. Like, he has his runner here. He's got agility 3. He could technically make the dodge, but he doesn't have any skills to go with it. So I'm feeling pretty confident here. Okay, so all the rest of my elves have to do is survive this round.
Joking. You're gonna love them.
However, Fritz the cat there decided to not survive this round. But he'll be back for next game, whatever. I don't need that many elves. And he didn't even try to go for the dodge blitz.
Touchdown.
So, free score for me. Basically, the lesson to be learned that round is, if you're playing a Bashy team, always cage up your ball against elves, otherwise they will just do that every time. Okay, he's still out, but does my KO get back up? Yes, he does. I'm only down one person. That is fine by my standards. And of course, dwarves never die ever, so don't have to worry there.
One team is lighter player, not a significant difference. Can impact the game.
So not too much of a change to my standard defensive setup, just swapping things around a little bit. I just like to make sure that there are tackle zones across the field. It's not too big of a concern against dwarves, but you might as well anyway. And I get a perfect defense, which means that I'm going to set up to try to steal that ball as fast as humanly possible. Perfect defense is great for Bashy and Elfie teams for completely different reasons. For Elfie teams, it means that I can set up in order to try to get to the ball faster than the slow-ass dwarves can. Of course, for Bashy teams, it's great, so you can just set up to punch the crap out of the Elfie team you're likely up against.
Gentlemen, I can't believe it. The dwarf player has gotten hold of
Although
the
from my
ball.
experience online, pretty much
Dwarf player
everyone
has
plays
hold of the ball.
Bashy teams. No one plays elves. Only I play elves. Also, there's another don't. Never pick up and pass the ball as the first action of your turn, especially as a non-elf team. It worked there, but that is incredibly risky. Also, keep in mind tackle zones. I mean, one-die blocks with block aren't that bad, but still, he could have set that up to have two dice there. Also, unnecessary going for it. Don't do them. So at this point, he's punched the crap out of my line, or at least pushed them, but doesn't bother me particularly, except for Meow Mix getting KO'd there. It's not great, but I can deal with it. Again, don't need many elves for this. He has set up his ball carrier right next to one of my guys, because I can just blitz from the ground if I want to. But it looks like I elected not to. Okay. So I decided that since I couldn't get enough tackle zones there, I would just go ahead and get some tackle zones in the ball carrier as opposed to trying to directly knock him down. Which is reasonable. Anything that slows down dwarves is great because they're already slow enough. And as it is, if I do get the ball, I still do have multiple players here who can score before the end of the game, since Dark Elves aren't the fastest elves, but they're still pretty darn fast for Blood Bowl players. At least in comparison to the dwarves here. So we've got a pretty decently sized scrum going on here in the middle of the field around the ball. I have set up my tackle zones properly so that he can only get one dice at best, but
Well done.
never fail block roll.
Maybe better dodging out of the way rather than blocking, Bob.
No, Jim. Strike first, run later. That's always been mine.
Not even pushes, just straight up pows and pow stumbles every time. It's fine, it's fine. Still got my guy next to the ball carrier, it's whatever, I can deal. I'd prefer if that didn't keep happening though. If you watch any of my Elfie games, that seems to be a running trend in that I approximately have a 77% chance to roll a 1 at any given dodge roll.
It's a good move.
So he's doing the dwarf equivalent of a breakaway play, which means scuttling a little bit further down the field. It's okay, still got this. I'm still elves. It's fine. Just gotta not roll 1s for next turn, and I should still be good. So I have the rest of his dwarves pretty well tied up in the center. There we go.
Dropping like flies.
Also, I gotta say, naming a dwarf player Jerry Rice is an insult to the real Jerry Rice. That man was fast as shit. I mean, I do appreciate it that at least he has a non-default name scheme, although just randomly naming all of his dwarves after football players is kind of lazy, but whatever.
Put pressure on the ball. Counterpick was back.
Anyway, dwarf runners are basically the only player who don't start with block, so easy blitz for my blitzer, and I get the ball again. And I'm set up to score if I can... Well, that'll keep happening, won't it? Still, all I have to do is hold on to the ball, and I score on turn 8. And I wouldn't have put him there, because that means he doesn't actually give assists due to the tackle zones, but... So it doesn't make his block any easier. But if you just get trying to get people next to my ball carrier, I guess that's reasonable. Still, he should have moved him there and then blitzed from there.
Ball in danger. And carrier, too.
One more step and
Since, yep, 1-die block just gives me a push. Granted, my ball carrier is a little lonely now, but he's pretty much used all of his dwarves there, so getting out of that is not going to be hard. Especially if he moves there, since I can still just blitz out.
Got any strategy for the coach here, Bob?
Didn't roll a 1, good.
hit stuff.
Yep, just going to use my blitz in order to free him up. Use a chain push in order to make it so his dodge is even easier.
Now that's a mess.
It's best to make a normal dodge and we're done. Except for the fact that I didn't know how Blood Bowl 2 handled passes. Because in Blood Bowl 1, you could queue up your move and your pass at once and you would do it. In Blood Bowl 2, you have to move and then do the pass, so I kind of got screwed there by the changes in the interface. But whatever, it's whatever. I'm still up 0-1. I'm receiving, it's fine. A little bit unfortunate, but again, I can deal with it. It's fine.
I imagine that in their dreams, at least, they're winning this match. It's going to be hard now that they're outnumbered.
Given him displaying his rather sparse knowledge of tackle zones, I'm still fairly confident that I'm not going to have any trouble winning this game.
Soon enough?
Even if I have 2 elves down. That's the nice thing about elves, Skaven, and such. You can be down players all day long and still be a scoring threat. Although admittedly Dark Elves have a little bit of a harder time with that, considering they're not quite as fast as some of their compatriots are. Also, they don't quite have the same amount of access to passing skills immediately. But at least when compared to Dwarves, I am lightning fast. And high kick. That is very handy for me, because I can just go ahead and, yep, move my blitzer 1 to be the ball carrier back there, and, well, rolling a 2, whatever. It doesn't matter. Still a pretty safe pickup.
Opponent's tackle zone. Should be good.
If the player is pushed,
Now, what I'm trying to accomplish here is just basically busting open one of his sides so I can just run through as many people as possible and get him into his backfield. As I said earlier, usually Dark Elves prefer more of a running play style, but I don't know, in this game I really felt more like going for a passing game. I guess in theory I could have gone for a relay run, but eh. Yeah, pickups are easier than trying to do a catch. Pickups are a 2 or better, catches are 3 or better.
Any action this player makes risks
At least when you have 4 agility. And rolling ones and dodges. I've done everything I wanted to do the turn though, so there's no reason to waste a reroll on it. So he's doing what he should be doing and is marking the players he can mark. Luckily that blitzer I have in the backfield is basically completely inaccessible to his slow-ass dwarves. So regardless of what he does, I have a receiver available in the backfield. So it is already not looking great. You usually want to have a few more safeties, especially if you're playing as dwarves against an elf team like that. Safeties just being players who can sit back and catch ball carriers, or at least be able to mark elves in the backfield. Especially dark elf players, because they don't really have any abilities that help them with it. Well then. It's a long throw, makes it a bit more difficult, but let's go. And failed. It's fine. It's fine. Ball's down the field. Anything that puts the ball further down the field still reasonably good against dwarves. I have no earthly clue why he's blitzing him. He could have blitzed the guy standing next to the ball. Instead, I guess he wanted to use him to try to do a pickup with 2 agility in a tackle zone, which is basically, yeah, it's a 5+. You're not going to get it. I mean, I guess it's in theory possible, but it's extremely unlikely. If you're playing dwarves, remember, it's better to just... So many ones. But had to reroll that one. That was a requirement. Don't know why the camera didn't immediately go to where that was actually happening, but whatever.
Just try dishing out a few whacks.
And another one. If I wasn't playing... Basically, if this person I was up against was any better at the game, I would be getting diced hard enough that I would probably be pretty doomed here. But luckily, I'm getting a bit of leeway, because again, he doesn't seem to quite know what he's doing. And also, that'll happen sometimes.
That player
I mean, he's getting his share of double skulls. He's definitely had more of those than I would expect normally, but... the other thing also is that I'm comparatively rolling more dice than him just because I am doing more actions per turn. Usually the prime thing in Blood Bowl is that you want to perform as few actions as possible that would require you to roll dice per turn, because fewer dice equals fewer chances for Nuffle, the random number god, to completely fuck you over. Anyway, that's... something's still going on down here. It's punching elves, whatever. Basically, anything that's happening in this side of the field right now is irrelevant. What I'm looking at is, I don't remember if I do or not, but that Troll Slayer right there, Navarro Bowman, is in prime surfing territory. And, yep, block with a runner, so done. So again, kids, if you don't have block, I would not advise doing 1 dice blocks. It's generally not a good idea.
Moved right next to a teammate.
Oh, I did go for the surf.
You know, a fence may solve this problem of players being...
And now the ball is completely clear. So yeah, if you can avoid it, try not to set your players right up next to the sideline on that, because otherwise you get shoved right into the crowd and have to take an automatic armor break.
That player's chances of still standing at the start of the next turn.
Yeah, that was going for it in the end zone, which usually results in death, but I guess Nuffle was okay with my offering of a dwarf to the crowd, so he let me actually get away with it that time. So I'm up 2-0 against dwarves in the second half, which basically means I win. There's no way dwarves can score like 2 or 3 times in the remaining amount of turns that are available. It just ain't happening. Unless they have like riots, blitzes, like basically all of the best possible kickoff events you can imagine. They're pretty doomed.
Sponge was on full charge. A few of the KOs have been revived and are ready to play again. They kick
So,
the ball
kicking off again.
Now it's time
And he gets an extra reroll. I don't know if I would call it brilliant coaching on his part, but hey game, whatever floats your boat.
They're gathering around that lone player, like halflings round a sandwich.
And the standard dwarf punching of the line. Armor's been breaking a little bit more regularly than I might have hoped with my armor value 8, but it's been badly hurt, a couple of KOs, mostly stuns, so I can't complain too much. Also, I just noticed that my lineman Purina there looks a lot like Gary Oldman from The Fifth Element. Ah, the legendary dwarf passing game! It failed on both sides.
all you had to do was throw it. By
So yeah, I wouldn't generally advise passing pretty much ever with dwarves if you can avoid it, especially when they're elves who are going to be standing right there ready to scoop up that ball. I mean, if I was Skaven, my gutter runner's priority would have relayed the ball into the end zone like 4 or 5 times right now just off of that. But at this point I've already set it up so that he only has 1 tackle zone on the ball, which for my elves actually is a pretty easy pickup. And for some reason I decided to put a safety back on the off chance I screw up. It's probably not terribly necessary, but you can never be too safe, and they're good habits.
Scooping up the ball with the opponent.
Yep, like I said, just picking up in a tackle zone, dodging out, ain't no thing for elves. And there's a going for it. I think we've seen a failed going for it thus far. And that basically means I get my free touchdown. Notice that I am not doing any going for it, because there's no reason to. I have no reason to score this turn, so I'm just going to chill. These guys are also a little bit unnecessary, because I don't think any of his players could possibly get there. Well, actually, no, the runner technically could, I guess. 1, 2, 3... whatever. Yeah, he's probably in range, but whatever.
Hold on. It's not full time yet.
And then he rage quit. I guess he just didn't want to bother. Oh well, what are you going to do? It's a free win for me. I get, if the enemy player rage quits like that, you get 2 MVPs, which means 2 players get 5 experience points, or star player points. They both went on linemen, so huzzah, whatever. So that was Dark Elves versus Dwarves. I might stream another game or 2 a little bit later, although I'm going to take at least a quick break, just because I'm feeling sick and I would like to blow my nose a bit. Anyway, thank you for anyone who was watching, and that has been Blood Bowl.